So I'm calling the special meeting of the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting to order at 6:07. Thank you, Bev, for providing the forum.
My pleasure.
And first we'll hear from our business manager.
Actually, we're switching it up.
Oh, we
So
are.
Sam and I had indicated that we're going to trade each meeting
Okay.
so that he doesn't have to stay the whole time and I don't have to stay the whole time. So that way we learn about each other. So
But Sam had a medical thing, so I am taking over facilities.
Sam.
Mhm.
So are we gonna do facilities or finance first?
facilities
Let's
first.
do facilities
Yeah.
first.
Mhm.
So Sam wanted us to know that Fuss and O'Neill was the low bid for the HVAC testing for NEA and CK. And remember, that was through our legislation. That was one of those unfunded mandates.
Right.
It's gonna cost us some money and it's in our budget.
So
So
they were the low bid, right?
they were the low bid.
How much?
Yeah.
I don't have that number,
Oh,
but I can ask him to get it.
is it bigger than a bread box?
I probably. He's planning on developing a schedule to be completed by winter break in coordination with the automated building systems and GPS maintenance department. So winter break is probably a good time to get things done.
Mhm.
Professional cost estimates for HVAC replacement at NEA and CK were submitted in a CIP, and I did bring those in so I can share that with you. And then the state has gotten in touch with us. Unfortunately, when I got the memo, it said East Line Public Schools. So I sent it to Sam and he said, oh, they made a mistake. I said, I don't think this is ours, but it is ours. It's about Groton Middle School and they have to do an audit on the building project.
Mhm.
So that's what's gonna happen. And I guess someone named Stacy Leach at the Groton Public Works Department has been notified to get direction because it really is the town's responsibility, I guess, to go through this audit process because it's their building. So,
The construction of the building, you mean?
right,
Oh, it took them long enough. They didn't say that, but
And
okay,
that's Groton Middle School, right?
that's Groton Middle.
okay.
Um,
And you-
and then I don't know if you've seen his latest list. I know that I just saw that he's already presented on CIPs multiple times.
Mm.
But I think our big focus is really, we've left in the Fitch High School just to memorialize it. We put in the $85,000 replacement for the water heater because we're gonna need that.
Mhm.
We replaced one, so fortunately we have one of the two working,
Mhm.
but this one is coming up, so that's gonna be a high priority. Another,
It fails altogether and then replace it.
Just to touch base on that too, there is a probability it may fail before we can get through the CIP
That's what I
program.
mean, but why not just let
So-
it fail? Otherwise-
Right. So just precaution
yeah.
that
Yeah.
it may impact the budget.
We should put a
Yeah,
pan
because what is it,
underneath
85,000 now?
85,000.
Big pan underneath it.
We took care of last year's along with all the property damages on our own budget. but
Yeah.
Never budgeted for it, so, and we came out okay, so how we did it, it's like a wing and a prayer.
Mhm.
And then we have, for the CIPs, we definitely are focusing on, the HVAC systems for CK and,
Any-
NEA. There is a total cost of that project, because we were gonna do like 550,000, but it would take us 6 years and we do it for each one. But the total amount, let me just find the paperwork on that. Got the athletics facility. We also.
Do you know how many companies, because on the minutes, he said that, they wouldn't have a walkthrough. You know how many companies bid on that NEA?
I don't know. On the NEA CK, this is just for the testing that's required by legislation. So he looked at all of the HVAC systems, so in the, for instance, Charles Barnum would need 2,318,000 to fix their HVAC.
Get out of here.
Northeast Academy would take 3,963,000. Fitch High School HVAC upgrades would be 5,054,000.
Where did he get these numbers from? Press and
Yeah,
O'Neill?
Yeah. And
Plus-
NEA, I think, was similar. I'm just looking. No, yeah. NEA is, Catherine Kolnowski is 4,191,000, so that other one that was close to it, Northeast Academy was 3,963,000. Lots of millions.
And I believe it's
Assume we'll be able to
because
go on.
it needs to be a redundant backup system built in.
Uh-huh.
So that's what's driving some of the additional cost, is if one fails, you need to have the backup ready to fire and go.
What, for HVAC?
Mhm.
Well, the ones for Northeast Academy and CK, they are 15-year-old buildings.
Mhm.
And they were never meant to take humidity out of the air.
Mm.
So we've had to run heat and air conditioning at the same time. It just blows in air
Right.
and we would get mold at different times. So we got right on it and we had a plan for it.
I think it's just a wet location, frankly.
It is.
I think Freeman Hathaway had lust
And then
problem.
we're gonna talk more with the board about entertaining the idea of moving to a software that links in with the town, something like a Munis, which you're very aware of,
Mhm.
Greg was very aware of. I think that might help us. I think even in a situation with this audit, you said how much easier it would be if you had the Munis, that you could just
Mhm.
download all this stuff instead of kind of the archaic way we've been doing it. right?
Right, it's just during our existing audit for FY '24, several of the reports that we need and they request are very easily retrieved out of the Munis software system. But with e-finance, they're just not there. So you're trying to combine data from multiple different reports they have in the system. So e-finance reminds me of when I first started using Munis in 2005. So it very much looks the same when you're doing certain tasks. And I just went back 20 years and remembered how I pulled the data together, and that's how I'm getting you the
Using,
data you're asking for.
probably using an Excel spreadsheet as a place to land.
Yeah, Excel spreadsheets and VLOOKUP and you name it, we're doing it.
Yeah. So I think we do need to figure out a system that's gonna really work better for all of us.
Mhm.
There was a time many years ago when I keep mentioning when I was on the council, that we were looking at a giant number to audit and review and redo the town's software because it had grown up.
Mhm.
And everybody was using different packages, and it
Right.
turned out that the links between this office, that office, the other office were basically homegrown Excel
Oh,
spreadsheets.
yeah,
And when that man or woman retired,
Yeah.
there
you got it.
it was such a thin,
That's right.
delicate connection that it was easily broken. But the cost was enormous.
The
So we
quote,
basically just revamp the towns.
right,
So it is what it is.
the quote we received is $330,000,
Yeah. it's-
and that's over the
For the
course of
start.
18 to 24 months. Annual maintenance is about 38,000. We're spending already 28.5 on e-finance without all those additional features.
Yeah.
And it even has a budgeting feature.
Right, the budgeting tool is there, procurement
Okay.
tool is built
So we don't
in.
want to waste the money on a budgeting to finance. We had to upgrade it, and that's part of all the stress that we have going on is that we're upgrading that, but we need to upgrade it or it won't be able to work for us. And that's just gonna keep us through the last, 18 months of its life?
Yes, we have to upgrade by winter break. Otherwise, we are no longer supported in that software. So it basically shuts down our finances for the school system, for the district.
You can't use it, or it's just they won't support it.
You can use it, it's not supported.
But you're on your own.
So a situation we ran into today was because it hasn't been updated, we started a accounts payable check run and the system timed out on its own. Not because we timed it out or was set the time out, but it just timed out. So then you had to start that whole process again. So we're starting to see those levels of failures
Yeah.
where
The upgrade actually happened.
that would be, we'd cut over right before winter break and we'd make sure the people
So
that are
Clint,
working
good luck.
during winter break are
Right.
trained.
Yeah.
And that we have support services available to them during that time.
If you've ever written software, then you know, even a mild complexity of software, they're really very complex and it's easy. I see this too when my systems age out.
Mhm.
They start to do funny little
Funny
things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So when are you thinking about getting munis?
Well, you would almost have to get it,
Well,
so that we can start really getting prepared for it, right? So would it be next year or the beginning of, or the end of this year or?
we put in the CIP request for it.
Mhm.
And once approved, it takes at least 18 to 24 months to implement.
Oh.
Because you have to create a crosswalk of our current financial system to be imported into that system, so we don't lose historical data.
Mhm.
And then we have to go through the process of testing and converting all the payroll data, all the AP data, Bless you. And then it also serves as your HR module. It serves as your
So
procurement
they'll
module, your
talk and connect with each
contract.
other, Which we
You have-
needed that.
You have to run it sort of in parallel with e-finance until you're sure that it's ready to take off.
Yeah,
Exactly,
Exactly.
exactly. And then you schedule a cutover date. So we'd still be using e-finance for day to day while building out
Yeah.
Munis and testing Munis and making sure it's doing what we want it to
Before you
do.
fly solo.
So
yeah.
2 years.
It also has a billing feature. So if we would like to bill for, I'm just using an example for school lunch,
Mhm.
we can send out bills utilizing the system and then we have a clean accounts receivable record. Not saying we don't right now,
Mhm.
but it's paper-based or it's Excel-based list where I could click a button and let you know who owes what and how long it's been aged. They also have a student activity feature so that we don't have to run Quicken at Fitch High School and Groton Middle School for all student activities.
Is that what they're running?
So
Wow.
it's because e-finance doesn't have something to support it. So there's a lot of us trying to gather information through all these different systems to complete audit work where it's contained in one system. So it's very robust from when I first started using it. And there's what I've seen is the fear of Munis in my experience is people tend to get overwhelmed. They don't know where to go in the system and they just need additional training and then they become more comfortable with it.
Does the company do the training or?
Yes, they do as part of the contract. You set up 12 training days as part of your contract every year. You schedule them, you schedule what the topic is. They do them via webinar. And you set the topic. This is, what we need
need
additional
more.
help with.
Mhm.
And then you do the training. You can do 2-hour breakouts. You can do them once a month. You can do them every week. They're flexible in that. And they also have a built-in knowledge base with manuals and videos.
Okay.
So that if I'm trying to do something and I can't remember from back to 2005, I can go on knowledge base, put in a keyword, and it pops up all the manuals. And it goes step by step by step.
Dare I ask what the alternative is, other than do nothing?
The other systems that I worked with with Sage, but that is more built towards private sector.
Yeah, I have heard of Sage. Actually.
Yes, and it doesn't work well in a government setting. Trust me, I know this. There's been several different softwares that I heard about through Casbo. I believe it's called Infinity. And that's, everybody was basically saying to stay away from Infinity. That's like going even further back than e-finance.
Oh, really?
So pretty much the Tyler Technologies Munis product is probably the best I've seen throughout my 20-year career.
And that's what the town's using as well?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Would ours be though a newer edition than what they have?
It may or may not, because Clinton and I are in RFP, or not RFP, actually our RFP, our request for proposal or quote, had asked for a cloud-based system.
Mhm.
And currently the town, my understanding, and it could have changed, is operating on storing everything on their own server. A resident in,
We've gotten so
Somewhere in
far away
town,
for
huh?
that, for safety reasons.
Mhm.
So it's got everything in the cloud now, just about. We have our own servers for certain things.
right, you still need emergency backup,
Yeah.
but we're looking at cloud-based. You can get quicker turnaround time on getting any glitches fixed.
Mhm.
And additional upgrades that you schedule right out. You can run reports that way to schedule to run overnight so that they're there when you come in the morning. And like any software, it has its glitches,
Yeah.
but it's probably the best that I've seen from a government accounting perspective.
And I think the town would understand it better too.
Yeah.
I think it would
hopefully
work,
Yeah, you can't complain about that.
so.
Yeah. No.
Plenty of other things to complain about.
So good segue.
Yeah. One quick
Yes.
question on the
Yeah.
HVAC systems. Did he put them in priority order? Like what school needs it the most and then down?
No, that's usually what we do when we talk to John Burt, because John Burt usually, as the town manager, he receives these and then we have a discussion and then he decides which one to forward.
Mm,
So sometimes you don't even really get to talk about all the different ones.
mhm.
But we do have a prior, I kind of shared with you the priorities. We need that water heater.
The water.
we
heater.
need, you know, for these two schools, and I don't know that it's going to be, you know, we've got the price out for if you want to do it in bits and pieces, and we've got the total price. So we're giving them both.
And there's,
So that's the water heater for Fitch and the HVAC system for Northeast and CK.
Yeah, and I'm still pushing for that $600,000 for my culinary arts program, because we now have a stove that's broken. I mean, we've been replacing little bits at a time through a Perkins grant. And I mean, I go in there and every kid feels like that's the course they need, whether it's for even a life skill or whether they want to be in the restaurant business, you know, or do something with culinary.
Yeah.
So, and people will say, well, Grasso Tech has one down the street, but we have 1,000 children that decide to go to Fitch and want to be at Fitch, and, you know, Grasso couldn't handle all those kids if they
Yeah.
all. So this way, at least, it not only will give us a really industrialized kind of kitchen setting or industrial culinary setting, but it would also be able to have more kids in it. So right now we can only fit 16 in each room, but they're going to take out that middle section and give it more space. So our kids can really, we can maybe even get 20 or 24 kids in
Oh,
each
that'd be
space.
good.
And we even cut down the semesters from a full year program to a half year. But
Hmm,
Forgot about that one.
yeah. All right.
What's next?
and then we just, another note, we do have, information technology CIP requests in too that we haven't talked about, that Clint could perhaps brief at a later date.
Right.
So those are included as well. So we were going with a full package this year. For the financial update, I can share the screen here. I have two different files. One of them gets to some of your questions. Let me try and, okay, so you're seeing it better than I am on my screen. So there was a big question around the other and what is contained in the other category.
Yeah, that was my question.
Yes, and I
Thank you
apologize.
for answering.
Yes, so there is, for other salaries, I provided exactly what's being charged in there for the examples. So support service salaries are showing up in there, sports salaries associated are in there. Other student activities is the school newspaper, yearbook salaries, enrichment salaries. Other tutors, I don't believe we had anything in there. They were specifically for tutors and nothing else.
You spent this much on tutors already?
Yes, and that was a trend that when I was first looking to interview with the schools and I looked at the financials, I noticed that happened in fiscal 24 too. So if we're having difficulty recruiting and retaining full-time teachers or paraprofessionals, you're going to see the tutor piece increase because we need to make sure that they're still getting the education that they need. So you're going to see a reduction in the other two categories or the increases in paras and tutors, but you're going to see the full-time teachers is going to be lower than what we budgeted. Then line number 149, that account number, that's pretty much the computer support salaries. The purchase services for 332, there's several different items in there. It's student evaluations, interpreters, frontline technologies there, some therapy is in there. And then the athletics is pretty much associated with the athletics department. And the 441 rentals other was the big one that you had the question about. So in that one, it's the all the copiers throughout the district, any Dell computers and any Dell devices that we are leasing or renting, that's falling underneath this rentals category. There isn't currently a lease line item, but that's something I'll work with my CASBO group to see if we can have added to the chart of accounts. Because for audit reporting purposes, the Government Accounting Standard Board passed a new regulation that we have to report those capital leases separately, as well as report any subscriptions that we have for services separately. So as of right now, there's not something in Connecticut's chart of accounts to provide for that that distinction. So right now we do have them in this rentals other so that we know we have them contained in one place.
Right.
So that when,
And that's spread all over the place.
exactly. And the other things that we had in there that weren't as significant, but they are being posted there is the Porta rentals and the Yukon pool rental that we're using for a swim team.
What is this porta potties?
Yes. Yes, they are.
Well, you know, the
Where?
situation we have at Fitch with, the facility there.
Yeah.
And then we have the additional fields at Groton Middle School. And sometimes they'll move them, like when you're not playing softball, we move it to the turf field. So they do move them around.
Yeah.
So we don't have to keep buying them for every field, but
Right.
This is cheaper than the $15 million for a new field house. I like it.
So in 449, again, the other purchase services, that's being utilized for mentoring any cylinder disposal fees that we're paying, fire inspection fees, fire protection, anything safety related that we need to pay a fee to have supported. The other two line items, there isn't any activities in 590 or 596. I kept them on this worksheet in case there is in the future. I can provide that breakout as well. For 619, the supplies, previously you didn't see anything under this other supplies because ROTC was grant funded. So any of those expenditures were showing up within a grant. That's no longer funded through a grant. It's now being funded through our general fund.
Okay.
So there specifically, you see the ROTC uniforms, the tags, and we also see nameplates not associated with ROTC, but nameplates for like the doors
Okay.
are in there, as well as any door plates that are needed throughout the
the
district.
goal is to have them JROTC, which is the next step after NNDCC, and then the federal government takes care of all of that.
Fine.
And the
That'd be
teacher,
nice.
that's what we're hoping for.
And then 819 dues and fees, other dues. This is for any organizations that don't fall necessarily under administration or facilities or finance. This is specific. They are truly other dues. They don't fit into the chart of account classifications by Connecticut for those other line items. So it's the Mystic Chamber, the Groton Chamber, Eastern Connection.
Groton Chamber.
I guess we
What is
do.
it?
We do.
There's a Groton Chamber of Commerce.
Mhm.
I would imagine there was.
I thought it was part of Mystic, Groton
No,
Mystic.
no, Mystic was its own.
Yep, in the detail, it actually has check cuts out to Mystic and then also to Groton.
Hmm. I'd like to know what they do.
And then we also have any state licenses and regional sport leagues also fall under this particular category. If we have joined any regional sport league associations or leagues, that's where we're paying the dues and fees from.
What does SLP stand for?
The SLP recertification.
That's probably speech language
Mhm.
pathologists,
Okay,
and it's in their contract to get that.
okay.
Yep.
One quick question. Pro-care therapy, is that physical therapy?
It could be a combination. It could be OT, it could be PT, it could be speech. It could be several different
It's the
items.
organization that
Right. So
supports
this,
us.
So that one company does OT, PT,
not necessarily.
Okay.
We have several different companies that are providing that for us, but if they're providing a service that falls out of that line item for OT and PT, they're gonna fall into the other.
okay.
So it could be speech therapy, it could be. Exactly.
Could be therapy getting along with Dean.
Right, exactly. Which, there wasn't therapy for that before, but thank goodness there is.
And then the only other one, there hasn't been much change to the regular financial since I
This one's still up.
provided last week.
Yeah.
We need to open the other one.
Are you
It's
gonna
hiding
put
in
this
the
one out?
background. Yes, it's just hiding in the background and I need to find it to display it. I apologize. Stop share for a minute while I find it.
It's Windows, right?
Mhm.
My glasses on, let's see this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put it up. Well,
And I can see that.
there were additional requests to add information. That's why it's getting smaller and smaller as we go. So let me,
We had that one
Do a
pager for
share?
a long time. Now all this detail, it takes up
Mhm.
multiple pages. I still like the one pager every now and again, just to get the essence of it.
Here it says void where prohibited. See store for details. Batter's not included.
Sorry, just one moment, I'm gonna minimize this.
Stop.
Okay,
Right.
so for this particular item, and I apologize, it's so small.
It's a big spreadsheet.
No, I know, I'm trying to get to the part and it's blocked unfortunately.
Get to the good parts.
Try and make it larger. So bear with me for just one moment here.
Move that over, so it's not in your way.
I was trying to, but it's not
But
working.
that's good. We could see that.
Okay,
And I have it on my sheet here too.
okay.
It's back.
There's a banner that you're not seeing that's on my screen that covers everything at the top. So that's why I had to move it around. So basically what I'm providing is the same that we provided in the past. There was a request last week at the regular BOE meeting to add the category name. So that way, when you see the narrative on a monthly basis, and I provide just that one box to say where we're at by category, this lets you know exactly what is in that category. So when we were talking about the school teachers not too long ago about, where we're at for year-to-date expenditures, I provided not only where we were at this point in time in 2023, but also 2024. So you can see that it's trending down, and it's not due to us reducing the teacher budget. It's due to the ability to recruit and retain teachers. They're just in high demand. So our budget for 25 is at the 25.6. And this is where you start seeing that difference we were talking about with the tutors and the paras. So we're down just because the challenge of filling the positions. We're down over our prior year of about $800,000. But what you're going to see is that's going to be offset
By the other.
by an increase in overtime, paras, and tutors.
Offset.
Well, paras can't replace, but the tutor could.
Right.
Or the building sub. is
Right.
The other one who comes in.
Do you
Right.
have any idea of whether the offset is, whether it's an equal offset or slightly offset or more than offset?
It's a little more offset because you could have a teacher that has that background to do multiple things, and then we need multiple tutors to try and provide that same
Right.
level of support. But that's something I can provide.
I mean, it's hard to tell.
Yes,
At this point in the year, especially, I think it's hard to tell,
Mhm.
but I am curious to know whether it's, I mean, obviously you prefer to have teachers, certified teachers,
exactly.
but
How does the building sub line up? And then, of course, the building sub, if they're pulled to do, let's say, a maternity or, then you're still paying your teacher. And they're on leave.
Mhm.
Then you need an additional building sub
Right.
to cover.
And what about the regular subs?
Well, that's all we have really are the building subs.
Oh,
Yep.
you don't have regular,
So-
you don't call up subs and
They
say,
don't do that. There's no subs to be had. So they have like maybe 4 to a building. 3 to 4 to a building, and that's all they have.
oh, people
And
don't.
even
want
when
these
the
subs?
paras are out,
So if you
they have
look,
to cover the paras.
it's actually line 120 has the regular substitute teachers. And that was at 298,000 at this time in 2023.
Mhm,
In 24, it was 268,
mhm.
and we're already ramping up to the 733. So that's why I can pull this together to try and provide a better snapshot so you can see how much is being offset in the other line items. So I can extract like custodial and clerical and try and give you a better snapshot of
so
what's happening with teachers.
we're up 460, 470, something like that.
Mhm.
But we're down on the teachers more than that.
Right,
So as far as those two lines are concerned, we're better off, I guess you could say this way.
exactly. But then if you look at 129, other tutors that we just talked about, you see that again.
Yikes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that's,
I'm wondering though, if we're not charging grants, the tutors, because we've gotten some new grants for tutors that
we're hitting the grants.
we are, okay.
So that's something I can try and just extract the teaching portion out for you. So we don't have clerical and administration and custodial in there. So it can try and give you a better snapshot of just that area.
Yeah.
And pretty much the other areas that we just talked about last week are concerns. There's an additional concern now that was raised just since we spoke last week. And that pertains to school lunch between two schools that, we aren't free and reduced. We're trending about $10,000 already
Okay.
in unpaid.
Remember last year it
Ernie,
was 8,000 a month, and that was for 3 schools, including Pitt.
Wow.
so Ernie and his team are diligent and doing, everything they can to try and collect these items. They reach out on a weekly basis to unpaid, and we're still not getting them resolved. So the next piece is, per statute, is if a student is in arrears more than 30 days in a calendar, a fiscal year, it's not even cumulative days, it's 30 days.
Mhm.
So if they miss paying for 5 days, but then they get back up to, zero balance, and then they slip again another few days. Once it's cumulative 30 days, the statute requires that the food service team school lunch needs to report it to our homeless advocate. So our homeless advocate
That was a-
Who's that?
is Denise.
Oh, Denise, you
And
gave
she
us
wears that
so many hats.
So it's to see if, if they truly need resources or they need assistance completing a form so that they can have, lunch without
But
carrying this
I
family.
have to say, though, that Ernie and his team have been really good,
They have.
especially in Charles Barnard, my military school, and I've told this story over and over again, that they don't get SNAP benefits, so they're
Mhm.
not automatically gonna get free and reduced,
Mhm.
and because they get TRICARE.
Mhm.
So to really encourage them to fill out the forms and to support people, so instead of just giving them a bill, they might send a form, they might send a nice letter, call us at this number, and he does get some people to
Mhm.
come in.
Yes, he
And
does.
he sits down and he helps them fill in
Mhm.
these forms.
Mhm.
Good.
And a lot of times that is the problem,
Ah,
that they just haven't been
they don't-
counted as free and reduced, and they really do need this help.
Right.
So I think we take the right approach to helping to support our families.
Right. So now we're just tackling it through another avenue,
Yeah,
their
that's another
advocate.
way, yeah.
Even though they're most likely not homeless, maybe they just need assistance with the form, then we're providing another resource.
Gotta go to dinner.
Yes.
I am. Well, my wife says hurry. No, I can't. I'm not gonna
Okay,
make it.
so there was nothing else major that was happening within
Parents for you, yeah, for a minute.
We're almost there.
the finances that we talked about last week. We're still seeing the increases in trash disposal. We're seeing increases in utilities, electricity. I have one of my teammates in the business office pulling information about the Eversource invoices,
Mhm.
so we can try and give you a year snapshot to see what's happening. But it's pretty much the same ones that we talked about just a week ago. We're still seeing that trend upwards.
So just based on where we are now, some of these line items, are you worried?
I need to look at the full picture. And to do that, typically what I do after December is I start to build in what we spent last year or the prior 3 years in that last 6 months of the year.
Mhm.
And then put in assumptions for the escalators that we're seeing in FY '25. And then I'll have a better understanding of where we're trending and what we need to do to preempt anything before it gets to our fourth quarter, which is April through June.
Mhm.
Start by shutting the lights off at the middle school.
Yeah.
Right, still need to do that. Maybe Something about unplugging the free electricity we're giving out to all the cars.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
With that particular thing, I did put a request into the town for a copy of the contract we awarded over the entire scope for that project
Mhm.
to see if at any point in time that we committed to providing the service for free to our taxpayers.
Mhm.
Because, or if any of it was funded federally, and that was a commitment we made before we just shut off.
Did you receive anything?
I haven't received anything yet, but I'll follow up.
Mhm.
I just want to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in a situation where
Yeah.
we had
Yes,
stated
yeah.
we were going to do this,
Yeah.
and then we turned it off.
Yeah, it's in trouble.
That wouldn't.
Exactly.
Let them sue us. Wouldn't be the
We don't
first
want to
time.
be sued.
That would be the first time.
So I'm thinking at the tutor line, we're gonna be way over on that.
We don't have that many tutors. I don't know how it's going up like that. We have a handful of tutors. There are just not tutors around,
Mhm.
except for the EL tutors. What would we had maybe
Are they making them
20
longer?
on staff?
Mhm.
They could be booked to this particular.
And then the
agreement.
others, I think, are all through grants.
They're paid by the day
Tutors?
or
Um,
no?
yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm
Part-time, it depends on
thinking of
their
the
hours.
subs. I'm sorry.
No,
Subs are paid by the.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
subs are
Thinking
paid
of
by the
the
day.
subs.
Tutors are paid by the hour. We have some that come in for 2-3 hours, a half a day, you know, we have some that are here for 5 hours, 6 hours. But we shouldn't have them for more than 6. That was the problem last year. I tried to tweet.
Do you know whether this is regarding the inability to find teachers, and having to plug in tutors and subs? Is this going on in other districts?
Yes,
Okay,
across the
so,
state.
so there's
I
nothing.
don't
that
think
we're
our problem is worse than theirs.
No.
I think our problem, you know,
And it's something we've seen in
certain teachers
Rhode
is
Island.
really hard, like to find a French or a Spanish teacher.
Oh, yeah,
those
yeah.
are Really hard to find.
Mm.
It's something I did see in Rhode
I have my
Island.
daughter, but she's not a teacher. She's fluent in French.
Typically, science and math is tough. If you're down a physics teacher, I think good luck finding a physics teacher.
You're okay with all that.
Okay.
You're okay with all that, so.
Hmm. What about using like, doesn't New London use a sub-service like Kelly? Don't they use Kelly? They used to.
That comes with a real high price tag
Mhm.
and not always high quality.
Oh, okay.
It's typically 3 times what you would pay if you hired.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um,
So we can wrap up and then you can go
Okay.
for dinner.
All right, I appreciate it. I mean, anything else? I don't want to, cut this short. Yeah, but,
It's okay, babe.
okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Believe me.
So I'll entertain a
Where you
motion.
going for dinner?
to adjourn.
Second.
Right. Without objection, we're adjourned.